Hello, my name is Henry and I'm a school teacher from Indonesia. The topic of my talk today is about facilitating successful language learning through English enrichment program, uh, which is basically an extensive listening program. This topic was presented in a international conference in Thailand in 2015. Many language learners face a lot of problems when they learn the language, and some of the problems are the lack of authentic listening materials used in the classroom, especially in my school. When I first taught in that school, there were no listening materials at all because we were using book published by the local publisher, in which there were no listening materials at all. So the students never get exposed with authentic listening materials at that time. And then the students also have a lack of language exposure and motivations. And based on these problems, I came up with an idea to provide a lot of exposure, a lot of comprehensible input to my students, and this program is called English Enrichment Program, which is basically an extensive listening program. The objectives of the programs are to provide extensive listening activities for my students. And why I decide to provide extensive listening activity, because based on my own experience when I was a teenager, I listened to lots of songs, and then I had a lot of exposure with songs, with dialogues, with authentic listening materials, and I found out that I pick up language that way. And I realized that my pronunciation and my vocabulary size increased a great deal that way. So that's why one of my reasons to provide this extensive listening activities, because it's very useful for my students. And the second objectives of this program is to provide language input, output-based activities, and building students' active vocabulary, and also to maximize students' language exposure. The underpinning theory of this program is that I think everyone that is involved in the language teaching agree that input is a necessary and sufficient condition for language learning, as stated by Christian. That language learners need to be exposed with a lot of comprehensible input that is meaningful through interaction, through listening and reading, and they can pick up language that way. Willa Renandia also points out that research has shown that for input to be beneficial for language development, it has to be highly comprehensible and abundantly. Now, as the implementation of this English enrichment program, we conduct the program twice daily, once in the morning for 20 minutes and once in the afternoon during lunchtime for about 30 to 40 minutes. So basically the students are exposed with a lot of songs, jazz chants, dialogues, and action stories. Those are authentic listening materials which are engaging, interesting for the students, and the students receive a lot of language exposure that way, and they pick up language unconsciously through engaging activities. And apart from the activities such as listening to songs, jazz chants, etc., the students were also involved in a performance and competition. So basically every month we usually have performance and competition, in which students from each class are asked to perform what they have mastered during the 1 month learning. So basically, for example, we ask them to perform a drama or a theater's reader in front of the class, and we will judge them based on their creativities and based on their language. The resources that we use for this extensive listening program are Yes Chance, and I found out that the students really love this Yes Chance because it sounds really good for them. It's interesting. It really provides students with a lot of languages, songs, and then action stories, and then dialogues, and also reading, which is a multimodal text. Um, the activities for this program are we do activities such as read while listen, and then choral reading and theaters reading, and then singing, and then we have a dialogue strips activity, anchoring dialogue, fill in double gap activity, and questionnaire project, etc. Some of the sample of the listening materials are this one. The title is Butterfly. So basically, this story is an action story, and students are not only listening to the story, but they can also act out uh, the utterances of the story. So it's much more enjoyable for the students. Another activity that is done by the students are theaters reader, in which students were given a dialogue or a reading passage, and then they need to come up with an idea of how to perform the drama in front of the class, and they also need to create properties so that the performance will become much more interesting for the audience and also for the judges. And this kind of activity, the theater's reader and then the drama, really foster the students' creativity, because as we see from the pictures that students were creating a lot of properties such as the banana trees, and then the small boat, and then they also brought toy gun into the class, because those toy guns were some of the properties used in the story. Besides fostering the students' creativity, which is one of the 21st century skills, this program is also aiming at fostering students' collaboration and communication skills, and it can be done through a questionnaire project. So basically, we ask students to work together in groups where they make list of questions that are connected with those language structures that they have learned before. So basically, this is a kind of a revision activity where students work together collaboratively to make a questionnaire. And after that, when they were done with the questionnaire, they need to ask their friends the questions on the questionnaire. So this way, we can really foster students' collaboration skills and also communication skills, because they work together in making out the questionnaire, and they also need to communicate to each other using English, using the language that they have learned before. Some of the benefits of these extensive listening programs are it addressing the lack of language exposure. As we know that the lack of language exposure is one of the biggest obstacles that occur to many language learners. In many contexts, for second language learners or for the foreign language learners, they only receive exposure in the class. Well, some of them probably watch TVs at home, but not many of them do this kind of activity. And then this program also helps learners become much more proficient users of English, and it brings a balance to the limited English lesson hour in the curriculum 2013, because in Indonesia there has been a change of the curriculum in which English is no longer officially taught in elementary school, and also in the senior high school the lesson hour has been decreased. So by doing this kind of extensive listening daily, every single day, it really helps students to receive a lot of language exposure in which they can pick up a lot of languages. Besides the benefits, there are also some challenges, such as the additional teaching hour for teachers and a schedule change. I administer some tests, such as the pre-test, post-test, and rotation test. During the pre-test, the average score of the students was 64.76, and then 2 months later I administered post-test and the result was 84.11. So based on this gain, we can see that the students' English have been improved a lot. And then 5 months later we did a retention test and the score was 84.85. Again, we see some gain here, showing that the students English have been improving. And we also did a questionnaire to the students, and then out of 80 students, 34 students agree that the materials of this program enrich their vocabulary, and 43 students agree and 3 students disagree. And then out of 80 students, 34 students agree that the materials used in these programs are interesting, and 43 students agree and 4 students disagree. One significant response from the students that the performance of the competition really motivate them to learn English more, that they've become much more motivated, and 43 students strongly agree that the performance really motivate them to learn more, and then 21 students agree and only 12 students disagree. These are students' responses about this program, and then these are some comments from my colleague, also from my mentors. So the conclusion is this program is innovative and enjoyable, because most schools tend to have extensive reading program, and this program is also beneficial for students because we provide a lot of comprehensible input, a lot of language exposure for students in a very interesting way through songs, jazz chants, dialogues, action stories that can be very beneficial to improve the students' language proficiency, and it's provide abundant and rich language input, and it's very motivating for students. That's the end of my dialogue today, of my talk. Thank you so much, and goodbye everyone.